Hello everybody, it's Sarah and today's video is going to be a video that I already did at the very beginning of my channel, and that video is my favorite strong female characters. But there are two reasons why I wanted to refilm this video. First of all, it's like really old and absolutely unwatchable. And then the second reason why I also wanted to film this video again is also the reason why this video will maybe be a bit of a discussion type video as well, is that my opinions on what constitutes a strong female character have changed quite a bit in the past few years. And I am pretty sure that some of the characters that I had in that original video, I wouldn't even put on the list now. First, let me just get into how my thoughts on strong female characters have changed in the past few years. I think there has been a shift in general in how we see strong female characters and how we can say if a character is actually a strong female character or not. And to be honest, I find it kind of sad that we still have to say strong female character and that we can't just talk about our favorite strong characters. Does it really matter if they're male or female? A character that is strong will be strong regardless of their gender. And the thing that I have a problem with now that I didn't have such a big problem with a few years ago is that the thing I see when most people talk about strong female characters is that they are all characters that can fight just as good as the boys. And so the thing we do is we're not actually acknowledging their strength that lies in their femininity, but more the strength that comes from a very masculine place, I could say. By the way, I will talk a lot about femininity and masculinity and male and female and all that type of stuff, and I just wanted to clear up at the very beginning that when I'm talking about femininity and masculinity, I'm talking about stereotypes. I'm talking about characteristics that are associated with femininity or masculinity. I'm not talking about the fact that women shouldn't fight or that men shouldn't be sensitive or anything like that, but I'm just talking about very much associations and stereotypes. And so I just wanted to get that out of the way at the very beginning. So like I said, I'm kind of annoyed at the fact that strong female characters somehow have to be very masculine or have to be basically boys with boobs. And I just don't see why it is like that, because in a way it's still kind of misogynistic. And what I mean by that is that by doing that, even though we praise female strong characters, we basically still praise their masculine traits. And feminine traits or strong female characters that don't have very many of those masculine traits are kind of left in the gutter to die and aren't talked about very often. And I think that's because as a society, we still seem to put more value on traits that are associated with masculinity and with men than on traits that are associated with femininity and women. And by the way, I am totally aware that what I'm saying right now is not a new concept. It's something that feminist studies have talked about for years already, if not decades. And I also understand that if you look at something like high fantasy, that at least in the mainstream is still very much male dominated and decades ago was a purely male genre, you have all those strong male characters and the females that are basically damsels in distress. And to break out of that role, you first kind of have to reverse that female role. So you have to have female characters that can take care of themselves and that are, as I said, basically men with boobs. But I would think that we're at a point where that's not really necessary anymore and where we can acknowledge female characters that are strong and that can't fight, that don't know how to wield a sword, and that maybe have to be saved sometimes. But the fact that they have to be saved doesn't take away from their strength. And now a lot of you might say, but we have a lot of female characters that can fight and that now also depict a lot of female traits, like for example Selena Saradossian, who knows how to fight and who is just as good as the man or even better than the man, but who also likes dresses and makeup or whatever. But for some reason, whenever I read about those characters, they don't seem very real to me. They don't seem very three-dimensional to me. And that's kind of very sad. They almost seem like a fantasy. They don't seem like well thought out characters. And the fact still stands that the reason why they are considered strong female characters isn't because they like dresses, isn't because they don't give a fuck if people see them as girly or as feminine, but it is because they can fight and they can hold their own against the men. And I just don't think we have come very far when it comes to strong female characters, when we can only view characters as strong that are very manly and that are very masculine. And then you have as example Sansa and Arya Stark. Sansa, of course, I know in the later books she gets a lot stronger, but at the very beginning she is very much put down just because of her naivety, because of her femininity, because she just happens to like knitting and needlework. And Arya, who is basically a stereotypical boy, again, I do understand that her value as a woman is not any less just because she only displays characteristics that are stereotypically associated with masculinity. That's not what I'm talking about. But she is basically, in a stereotypical way, a boy, and she is celebrated by the fandom in the first book. Like, I'm only talking about the first book. While Sansa is repeatedly put down just because of her association with very feminine things. Like, she wants love, she wants to marry the prince, she wants to bear his children, she enjoys needlework, all that type of stuff. And that's just something that I find very, very sad. And my bottom line just is that I want more strong female characters, or more strong characters in general, because I think the resolution to this problem that I see is that we just need to put more values on emotionally strong characters, whether they be female or male. Like, I want to see more characters, both female and male, whose strength lies with their emotions and with their sensitivity and all that type of stuff that we more often associate with femininity instead of masculinity. And just don't push masculine traits that high. Fighting isn't that great if you can't resolve a problem without it. So that's just what I wanted to say for the discussion part. And now I have 4 female characters that I think are very strong characters and that I think are very good representations of strong female characters. First, I have Nihal from the Chronicles of the Emerged World by Licia Troisi. I have talked about this book a lot already, and you think I might be kind of hypocritical because I just talked about not raising characters that can only fight so high. But there is a specific reason why I think she is a very good representation of a strong female character. And that is, yes, she can fight, and yes, she wants to fight, and yes, she enjoys fighting, but at the same time she's never put against boys. I mean, there is a scene where she has to get into the academy because the academy doesn't usually let girls in, and where she has to prove herself, kind of, that she can fight just as good as the boys. But that's the only time that's kind of implied, that she has to be just as good as the boys. At other times, it's never like she's abnormal as a girl because she doesn't enjoy this or this or this, and she is weird because she enjoys fighting. It's just something that she happens to be. And at the same time, there are multiple scenes within this book where she mourns her lack of femininity, but not in a way where she's less of a woman because she doesn't have that femininity, because she walks like a soldier, but just because it's something that she would enjoy to have. There is a scene where she lives with another woman where they make fun of her, and not because she walks like a man, but she walks like a soldier, and there is made this very specific distinction. And so she tries to also connect again with her female side, with her sensitive side, and I think the balance between her being a very masculine character in a way, but her also having a lot of feminine feelings, kind of, is very good. And she actually has to fight against those more masculine traits because they do make her very rash, and they do make her very angry, and they do lead to her not being as good a fighter, and kind of also not being as moral a person as she could be. And once she connects with her feminine side, she is a well-balanced person who suddenly becomes not a better soldier, but a better fighter for the war. And that's why I really enjoy her. Next, I have Marla Wolfblade from the Hydron Chronicles by Jennifer Fallon. And the reason why I chose her is because she's an example of a character, of a strong female character, that is usually only seen in antagonists like Cersei. She is very naive at the beginning. She is 16 at the beginning of this novel. She's a princess, she wants to marry for love and all that type of stuff. But she very quickly loses that naivety and is very disappointed in what the world holds for her. but she never gets angry against the world, and she just starts using what she has as a woman to make sure that her children end up on the throne. I can't really explain that much because I don't want to spoil this series, but she's just such a strong woman. And once she realizes what she has to do, she never really breaks down and she always stays strong. She becomes a bit emotionless, sadly, but at the same time, it's just very, very nice to have a character like her on the good side and not her being like the evil witch like Cersei is. Then the third character I wanted to talk about is Sorka from Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Marillet. And for Sorka, I have to summarize the whole story a little bit. This story is based on the fairy tale or on the myth of the 6 swans, and the story goes that you have 7 siblings, 1 sister and 6 brothers. And one day the 6 brothers are enchanted by an evil sorceress to be swans. And their sister from that point onwards, to break that enchantment, has to stay absolutely silent. She can't make a single noise, and while she stays silent she has to knit shirts out of some plant. I think it's called Starworth in the books. I have no idea what this plant is. What I do know is that it severely hurts her hands and stunts her hands and kind of is very painful to knit. But she, however, does stay absolutely silent throughout all of that, and the stuff that happens to her in this book is absolutely horrific, and she just has such a strong resolve, and her strength doesn't necessarily come from her femininity or from her feminine traits or anything like that, but it doesn't come from a manly place or a masculine place as well. She just happens to be a character that is very strong. And then the last character I wanted to talk about, because we don't see these characters often enough in books, is Marianne from The Black Jewels by Anne Bishop. Of course, Anne Bishop is great when it comes to strong female characters. I think I have said that multiple times already on my channel, but the reason why I wanted to talk about Marianne specifically is because Marianne is a character that usually gets paid dust and is left in the gutter, and everyone dislikes that type of character and thinks that character is very boring. For one, Marianne is a mother. She is actually one of the main characters in the series from the 3rd book onward, or like the main side characters, and she is a mother. She is a young mother, like not the type of mother that you see in books usually, where they're just like the mother of the main character and they appear every few times, but like actually a mother with a little child that she takes care of, and she gets 2 more children throughout the series, and that's absolutely amazing. How many mothers can you name off the top of your head that like are young and that are main characters and that are a focus of the story, and not just the mother of some character that either is dead or we have to fight against or anything like that? And the second thing I love about her is that she is a hearth witch. What that means is that she isn't very strong magically, and that her strengths lie very much with housekeeping, with cleaning, with all that type of stuff. So very, very feminine associated things. And yet it doesn't take away from her strong character. She is told multiple times that her work isn't important, but actually throughout the book she is uplifted by other characters and told that her work is important and that it is worth something. And not like what happens so often in our society, that housework basically isn't work and that it isn't important and that it's never mentioned or anything like that. And that is why I absolutely love her as a character. On top of that, she is just crazy strong. She has only friends and family who are way stronger than her, and yet she still holds her own among those, and she's kind of a little bit of the emotional glue holding everything together at a lot of points in this story. So I very, very much appreciate her as a character. And if you haven't thought about picking this book up before, even though I always talk about it, pick it up just for her character. Although she only appears in the 3rd one, sadly, and not that much, but we get her background story in the 4th one, and it's beautiful. That was it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and maybe subscribing. Also, tell me in the comments down below what you think of strong female characters, what your opinions are. Do you see things a little bit differently than I do? Tell me why, and also tell me your favorite strong female characters in fantasy especially. And all the links to my social media, as always, are in the description box down below, so go and check those out, and I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!